Alright, hi everyone, and welcome to Life Lessons taught by Fire Emblem. This is a pre-recorded session, but of course you are welcome to message me while you're watching and chat. I'll be around, and I do love talking with fellow Fire Emblem fans. So this panel here is going to be mostly poking fun, a little bit of seriousness, but mostly humor, as we go through all the different things that Fire Emblem has been so gracious as to teach us. Alright, I will say first and foremost, there are spoilers here. I've been playing this game series since Sacred Stones, and I've volleyed all over the place with the games that I've played or researched, so I noticed a little bit about everything. Or a lot about everything, depending on which game you're talking about, and which one has kind of wormed its way into my heart the most, but there are spoilers abound here, so heads up if there's anything that you're not super interested to know right away. Okay, first thing is first. This is one of the lessons that I learned from Fire Emblem so quickly. Always have extra. Like, no one wants to be in combat down to the last, 10 strikes on your sword and you're by yourself, especially in the old games. There was no, using it anyway. It broke, and it was gone. You were just out there. And there wasn't, fisticuffs necessarily. You weren't oh, I'm gonna punch. No, you're defenseless out there. You have no weapon, and you're just stranded. So, same thing would happen with vulneraries. You ran out, and that was it. You were on your own until you could get a healer in range of that unit. So you're foiled again. Always have extra. That is what I've learned. Now this one, support ranks equals the power of friendship. It's true. It's true. Because a lot of C ranks, not a lot, but a good amount, start off with animosity. They're not exactly friendly. And the B rank might not be better. So you kind of get to your A rank and then there it is. Finally you actually see a glimpse of friendship as you recognize it, but they've been friends the whole time? Sort of. It's a thing. It shows that there are different ways that you can experience the power of friendship, and it is also a very convenient way to make friendships. I kid you not, I have told people before, if I have a C rank friend and I have B rank information, I need to wait until that C rank friend is B rank to have access to that information. It is locked behind that level. It's a really good way to think about friendships. In the sense of, there's so many words out there for it. There's acquaintance, there's friend, there's colleague, there's best friend. You're you know what? It's complicated. I'm gonna put you guys into ranks. I hope you don't mind. This is how we do it. Fire Emblem, thank you for your framework. We appreciate it. You can pretty much tell. There's something about the wardrobe with being a villain. It's right out of the gate. You're is there literally any purple? You're already playing with fire. It's oh, I don't know, man. Your purples and reds, you gotta look out for them. Obviously black. Super evil color, apparently. So you know a guy when you look at him. That one's definitely a dark mage here to kill everybody. 100%. That or just a weasel. It depends. Not looking at anybody. Not naming any names. Unless they dress in a way that looks evil or looks good, but they're the opposite. Or recruitable. We have a recruitable villain in one spot. Yes, I picked the one that I recruited and not the other one. You could technically recruit her or someone else. Point is, I recruited her and I have no regrets. Noel is a cinnamon roll who could kill you. We're not going to talk about this last guy. We're just not even going to talk about him. Too much baggage there. He could have his own panel. If you don't love me at my C rank, you don't deserve me at my S rank. This is how it works now. Feel free to use this slogan everywhere. I don't even know if this quote was from C rank, but it was too perfect not to use. Libra and Gaius are a disaster. But no, it's true. This is a great way to think about boundaries. I'm just saying. If you're looking at boundaries, if they don't love you at your C rank, you really gotta think about whether or not they deserve you at your S rank. Throwing it out there. Alright. This one. Teamwork makes the dream work is the slogan that I've heard a million times, but really though, it's true. When you get a bunch of different units together, they work better than individually. That's the whole point of Fire Emblem. It's chess, but they kiss. Sometimes. And you can make the pieces kiss if they get friendly enough. Or you break the cannon enough. Whatever. It's fine. But really though, like, having frontline units with really high defense, with archers and mages behind them, just saying. They all can't do it alone. If the guy holding the front line doesn't have a mage behind him to heal him, what's he gonna do? What's that? How's he gonna make that work? Versus if the mages and archers are all lined up, who's gonna keep all the big baddies coming from in and squishing all the little soft mages and archers? What are we gonna do? They can't handle that on their own. They all need to come together into one happy front line of strategy. You know, I'm sure they'd rather be having tea, but here we are. We are gonna make them fight because we are bad, bad teachers that way. What can we do? We say as if we can't do anything. Bottom line, Fire Emblem proves it. You can't do everything on your own. Sometimes you need help, and that's okay. We're all humans, we all work together. No one is perfect and completely independent. You gotta work with your buddies. If you're a mage, commit to being a mage. Defend the person who's standing between you and the very angry man with an axe. That's how you do it. And they defend you while you protect them. It's a good system. We appreciate it. This is the story. Definitely the moral behind the story. Therapy is cool. It's really rad, and you guys should try it. Specifically these three. Especially. You know, it would be great. You know, the whole game wouldn't have happened if Leon had just gotten therapy. Just throwing it out there, Sacred Stones. Not really gonna be like totally different game. Leon just got some therapy. Just saying, just tossing it out there like maybe calm down. What can you do? Crom needs it low-key. Like, he doesn't look like he needs it if you don't, like, look at him too closely, but if you look at him closely, then yeah. Yeah, Crom needs therapy. Like, real bad. And then we have Dimitri, and I rest my case. I mean, look at this feral little gremlin. Counseling, Dimitri, get some. We love you. Get some help. But you know, really, therapy is cool. Think of all that your villain arc might be lost, but you'll have a really tragic backstory anyway for like your anti-hero story. I'm just throwing it out there. Therapy is cool. Go for it. You could stop a whole world from being destroyed. Very realistic expectation for what happens if you go to therapy. You save everybody. Sounds logical. Ah, and my favorite. Everyone brings something to the table. I think it's important to mention that, like, I've heard a lot of people complain about these units in particular, and I did find them quite useful. You know, you have to just use them strategically. They're more finessed. And that could be true about anyone's skill set. I mean, I've gone to school with plenty of people who struggled in school, but came out really, really accomplished and successful in the things they love to do, because they learned that finesse that wasn't necessarily rewarded in a scholarly environment. Just saying, a lot of people complain about Ash and the fact that he can just pick locks, and why would you need that when you already have thieves? Well, I can also stick him on a wyvern and have him pick a lock that's halfway across the field. That would take a thief like 6 to 10 turns to get to. Because he doesn't have to pay attention to anything, like walls. He just flies above it and he's on his way. Love it. One of my favorite units. I find him extremely versatile and I make him a wyvern every time because he saves me so much trouble. So much trouble. I know you're all thinking of that one map that has a treasure chest at the end of this super long pathway. Yeah, like 4 turns and he's round trip there and back. He's fine. So, huge, huge help. Just throwing that one out there. And when you're using like song or dance to help restore turns and give other benefits, super helpful. You stick someone else with them to give them a little protection and they're fine. You gotta use them strategically, but they're so helpful. And any narrow space, you get a unit like Kellum in there, and you can bottleneck your enemies and let archers and mages pick them off. Super helpful. So really, every unit brings something to the table. You just gotta incorporate it into your strategy a little more, and if it doesn't exist in your strategy, that's cool. But don't call these units, like, useless, because we know the truth. Every single person has a skill they can bring to the table. It might not apply in every situation, but it does apply. That's the lesson here. Now, this is so beautiful as a quote. Just like, yes, we survived. Sometimes you do need to keep that bar right where you can reach it. You survived. You successfully did not perish. That's a win. And you're gonna call it a win? And that's how it's gonna be. I think after 2020, we have all learned that sometimes you need to lower the bar to the point where your goal is attainable, to stop yourself from being burnt out and exploding. It's an extremely manageable life lesson here from Fire Emblem. Sometimes you just have to accept that loss could be part of the strategy. You might have to make some compromises, but hey, you made it. That's a success! You won. Nailed it. Aha, this one. You can always change for the better. And this is true. I mean, I'm gonna give most props to Henry on this one, because his backstory is a mess. Like, there is no reason this boy is recruitable. No reason. He just is. He should be brainwashed so badly that there's no redeeming him, but he wanted to be better. That's it. That's all that happened. He just wanted to be better. So he rehearsed his little speech with so many puns and annoying laughter. Sorry, Henry. And he ended up being on the good guy side because he wanted to be, and that was it. Sylvain is a gremlin. We love him. You know, unless you don't, which is fair. Because he was a mess pre-time skip. And post-time skip, he's barely scraping it together a little bit. He's working on it. Instead of hiding everything behind being a disaster and not respecting women, he starts to be more genuine. When he's got an issue, when he's having feelings, he talks about them. You know, the little things that we love that make the world easier. Instead of burying his pain and taking advantage of others, he comes a long way. So, you know, progress. And our dear prince on that far side over there spends a lot of his game being a mess. Like, just a mess. There's no excuse. He's... only there is. He was not raised a prince, and then he was just thrown into a war. So he spends the majority of it being deeply unhelpful, just kind of expecting everyone else, needing everyone else to do everything for him, which invites all kinds of problems. Our dear boy. But he comes into his own over the course of the game, and you gotta give him that. So, sometimes you don't come in looking stellar, and sometimes you spend a long time not looking stellar, and everyone else around you carrying the weight. But he did learn from them and became better. Just throwing it out there. Lots of examples in Fire Emblem about, hey, maybe you didn't come out of this looking like a great person and you weren't fantastic. Maybe you disrespect women. Maybe you've done some extremely questionable things. Maybe you were just not good at your job, but you can't quit it because you inherited it. You can get better. Sometimes you really need to screw up before you realize you need to get better, but you can. And that's the important thing to remember. No matter how gremlin-y or garbagey you've become, the only way you can go is up. Perfect. You can always change for the better. Always. Multi-shipping is pretty rad. I'm gonna say it. With a cast this large in every single game, I don't know how people can commit to one couple and never want to ship anybody but them. I've got my favorites, but to stick to one? Absurd. I've got like 3 to 5, maybe 6 ships for each person. And that's just counting, like, if you do couples. We're not talking about anything else. We're not even going into what happens when I start going into OT3 land. We're not even going there. There's so many options. Multi-shipping is awesome. And you can't argue with that because in Fire Emblem there's just so many people. I feel like it's a lot easier in Fire Emblem to get onto the multi-shipping train because there are so many people. At the very least, you kind of have to acknowledge that other people are going to have other ships from the sheer quantity of canon ships. I mean, there's so many. And it only increased as the game series went on. You know, there were a couple in Sacred Stones, but there are a ton in Three Houses. Like, you might not end up with this person, you might end up with that person. It is what it is. I think Ferdinand has like 4, 5 different like canon ship endings. Yeah, it's a lot. So when there's multiple canon pairs, it kind of just gets rid of ship wars altogether to the point where like anyone who is engaging in ship warfare looks extra silly and stupid. Because unlike a lot of other games and series, is like there's already more than one. So like for someone to be like, no, this is canon, you'd be like, and so is this. It completely takes the wind out of their sails. So there's probably still some ship wars. I don't see it a lot because I don't go into that, but it's kind of hard to do it when there's a bunch of canon ships anyway. So you can't be like, this is the couple and this is what the creator intended. It's like, there are 3 other ships. And even with people who only have a couple canon ships, there's already that precedent of, hey, obviously they can end up with anyone. Who's to say? And that's really where it comes down to. So it kind of just cultivates a very open shipping environment and kind of shows the benefits of multi-shipping, of like one couple might be really fun for this dynamic and the other couple's really fun for that dynamic. And it really depends on the flavor of ship you want that day. Splendid. People really do remember how you make them feel. This is true. I'm not even talking like the whole like, you know, they're not going to remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Like that? No, we're not necessarily going into that, but like, it really is true though. I mean, Gatekeeper. How often does anyone actually have a scene with Gatekeeper? Literally like once a chapter? And you just like, he's just super enthusiastic and sweet. And everybody loved him so much, he actually won as much as Marion, who has canon ships, which I feel I need to mention that she's not cursed. That's what that is. It's like, also you're not cursed. I couldn't crop my baby girl out. She deserves so much love. But really, Gatekeeper has like a handful of lines of dialogue every chapter and has no like canon scenes with the player character. And everyone loves the Gatekeeper. Won first place. Sometimes you just gotta be sweet and really, really enthusiastic about what you do. Not even necessarily good at it. Just really, really enthusiastic. Whatever you are, be the best one you can be. That's the story behind Gatekeeper, and people will appreciate it. You don't even have to have your whole face. They weren't even bothering to try to do all of Gatekeeper's face. Look at him. Can't even see his whole face. That's the moral of the story. Totally. Maybe not the face part, but everything else. Absolutely. Also, love Marion. She needs it and deserves it. That's just my personal moral of the story. It's not even really a life lesson because it's very specific to Marion. Persistence is key. Anyone who has ever had to go through and just given up completely on lost items and just clicked on every single one with a person, and I'm sure a lot of us have done it. I'm sure a lot of us have done it. We know that persistence can get us pretty far. Sometimes you just gotta keep pushing. And that's how it is. You never know whose lost item this is unless you show them literally every single one in your pocket. There are so many things about this. You guys must know about this. But it's delightful. And I can only say I adore it. Math. I learned so much about math. And you know, when you're in math class, you're like, what am I going to do with this really? And it's like, well, you need to know when someone's defense is in comparison to the strength of the enemy unit, and then factor in speed to see like if they're going to get hit twice or not, or who's going to go first or not. There's so much. And we're not even going into weapons triangles and how that interacts with each other. We're just talking straight statistics. Defense and resistance versus strength and magic. It's gonna be a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So it's delightful that this is what I used math for most of the time when I was a child. When I was dealing with math and growing up and all those different classes, this is what I was using all of my math stuff for. This and nothing else. What can I say? I wanted to play Fire Emblem and I needed to know if I was gonna win or lose. If your friend has a sigil birthmark, they are connected to a demon dragon hybrid, for sure. Very rich and will be connected to a knockoff demon thing. Extremely traumatized and not long for this world. Or related to a crazy king and a dragon, NBD. You're gonna see a lot about dragons here. Trauma, maybe some wealth, but mostly trauma. Mostly trauma. What can we do? Sometimes a sigil birthmark just kind of marks you off for, being in trouble or extremely wealthy. Crom. You do what you can do. Which is to say avoid dragons and demons and demon dragons. Maybe the dragons might be fine. It depends. Depends on the dragon, you know. Take it on a dragon by dragon basis. The best defense can actually be defense. This is actually really important strategically for Fire Emblem. It's not the kind of game where you can just charge in and, like, just fight. You might actually be better off setting up a good defense and waiting for the enemy to come to you. Depending on the units you have and the terrain you're up against, it's a really important lesson. Because it's not like other fighting games where you can feasibly just bulk yourself up and run out there. Not every unit is capable of that. And then you might not level up your other units if you always rely on one unit doing that. So it becomes this whole thing where the best defense can actually be a solid defense. Instead of taking that initiative and striking first, letting them come to you could be the difference between saving a unit and losing a unit. Which isn't as big of a deal with the changes that Fire Emblem has released recently. Depends on how you play. But still, it's always nice to be able to save a character. Can we all agree on that? I'm sure. Train who you love. I cannot say this enough. Because, you know, these 4 characters, honestly, I'm not as familiar with our gentleman here next to Ignatz. But the other 3, loved them. Love them, love them, love them. Annie's one of my favorites from Sacred Stones. Absolute, so cute, just adorable. And then Rolf is... that's not Rolf. I do what I want. Maybe it is. In any case, I'm forgetting his name because we have a large cast, but he was really sweet and one of my favorite characters. I had a lot of fun training him and raising him up. Wicked fun. And Ignatz is the same. He has got so many different things that he'd potentially be good at, depending on which way you go with him, and that's the best part about, like, the units that aren't super experienced. And it's the same for going that way with any other character that you love. There are plenty of people out in the Fire Emblem fandom who are going to hate your favorite, and it's totally none of their business who you train and love the most. So, even if everyone's like, oh, I don't like this character, they are the worst unit in whatever, they're your baby. You bring them along because you love them. And you need no other excuse. It's your game, and there are so many characters, and you can definitely get them someone to look out for them. Incorporate them into your strategy. Bring them everywhere. Whatever. You love them, bring them with you. That's all you need to know. Self-care is extremely important, Frederick. And if you don't know the word relax, we are concerned for you, sir. This is Frederick as the poster child for not knowing what the word relax means. And being adamant that if it was a word, he'd have heard of it. We've got a maybe from him, but you know, it's important. Not every moment has to be productive. And particularly in the case of Frederick, you don't always have to be doing something for someone else. Productivity could be taking it easy. Because if you're relaxed, when something does come up, you'll be bright and fresh and ready to handle it, instead of at your wit's end and almost out of spoons. You gotta keep your energy up for when something does happen, just take good care of yourself. It's important, and now more than ever, it's important. We've all been through a rough time. Take a breather, take care of yourself, and make sure you're ready for what comes next, because something's always coming. Just make sure you're ready. By when you have a chance to rest, you rest. That's how you do it. Frederick, calm down. No, he's probably going to say no. Aha, yes, this is really important, honestly, for anyone going into the Fire Emblem fandom. Fire Emblem elitists really do be like that. They do. It's a sad, sad thing where, unfortunately, there tends to be a little bit of animosity between classic lovers and the people who like the Phoenix and regeneration different settings that there are. Being able to rewind turns, things like that. Things that arguably saved the Fire Emblem series from fizzing out. It was just very difficult. I think we can all agree that when you start playing a game and if a character dies and you have to start the whole chapter over, not everyone's gonna love that. Is it strategically challenging? Yes. Is it really difficult and discouraging? For a lot of people. So, it makes sense. But unfortunately, you are going to bump into people who will be upset and kind of look down on you if you use different settings. Very weird. Not sure I'm a fan of it. Definitely not a fan of it. But it's going to happen. And the best thing you can do is just agree to disagree and be on your way. What does it matter if they can boast about being able to keep all of their units alive till the very end? Honestly, the only difference to me is strategy and how you go about it. So, really, that's it. And whether or not you're enjoying the game, use the settings in the game. It's a game. Use the settings that make it fun. If you're not having fun playing the game, it's not a very good game, is it? So change the settings so it's fun for you. And that's that. You're not trying to prove anything with this. You're trying to enjoy the story. Use the settings that make it enjoyable for you. You don't want it to be another chore. It's a game. So you do what you gotta do. But not everyone feels that way. And then you just steer clear of them. Because you're not here to change their mind. You're here to talk about a game you love. And that's that. Flair does deal extra damage. That little spin? Crucial. Extremely essential. See that? You can tell that would do extra damage. It sounds logical and follows physics. Natural immunity to weapons is a real thing that you can attain with enough training. This person's comics are actually really hilarious, and I recommend it a lot. That's why we have that little copyright on the bottom down there. It's awkwardzombie.com. I don't know if their website is still up, but this photo suggests that it is. Somewhere in some capacity. And their name is there as well. I just don't know how to pronounce it. Point is, apparently, you can develop a natural immunity to being stabbed on a spear. However, I don't think you can develop a natural immunity to the fear caused by stabbing someone with a spear and having it do literally nothing. I don't think that's gonna help you. Sorry. Magic users can and will hover themselves above the sand to avoid terrain effects, but they will not do that for you. Flying units also will take care of themselves. They can just fly above the sand, but this does not explain why the magic users just hover themselves and then look dead in the eyes of their warrior friends and go, exactly like that. I love you, but absolutely not. Just no. No explanation. Magic users, what are you gonna do? The nerve. As you get better, this one is really important for real life too, challenges get tougher. And this is honestly where a lot of people get discouraged when they're developing new skills. Let's say you're learning to draw. After a certain point of learning to draw, your skills, your knowledge in your head will exceed your actual capabilities on the page or in a program. So you will be able to see what is wrong with your drawing or painting, but not have that capability yet to fix it easily. And it's this really frustrating crossroads in developing new skills. So it pays to remember things like, as you get better, your challenges are going to get tougher because you're now more aware of the challenges you're up against. You didn't know they were there before. But once you hit a certain level of ability, of experience, you're going to start noticing them there and not be able to get past them quite yet. You can see where this would be really discouraging, but then you've got to keep in mind, all the way back to persistence is key. You keep it up, and you'll get better, and then those challenges will get easier, and you'll have new ones that you'll be more capable of coming across. It just is this cycle of growth, and you'll keep getting more experienced the more you try. So, it's important to keep in mind. Don't give up. Just because the challenges are tougher doesn't mean you're not getting better. It's the other way. Challenge gets tougher, it's proof that you're getting better. Now, this one. Very specific circumstance, and highly controversial in the Fire Emblem fandom. Marriage is more complicated with time travel. How do you explain to your best friend that you have every intention of marrying his daughter that has not yet been born, but she came from the future to see you, and you like her, and you are the same age right now, but to her knowledge, she knew you as an adult in her mind, but like she interacted with you when she was a child and you were an adult, and then but you're gonna tell him that you intend to marry her, and you know, it's really better if you just like, it's a lot easier, a lot less complicated to not get time travel involved with marriage, if at all possible. You know, it's just the social capacity of it is just extremely difficult. If you go into the comments on this ship, like I did, it is highly, highly dangerous. This is the one ship war that endures forever. Time travel will throw a wrench in your marriage plans. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. If for some reason you come across this in the real world, I don't know how you did it, but don't. Always going to make so much more complicated. Don't do it. Ah yes, dragons do not understand clothing. Why are most dragon characters also like 12 years old? I don't know. They look very, very young. They don't even... We have like one that's an adult. Bottom left here. On the top right over there with Tiki, we've got someone who like looks at least slightly teenager-ish. And then we just hit with like literal children. For some reason, they do not know how to dress themselves. I do not know what is happening. But this is the truth of it. The only dragon I know who in Fire Emblem understands that clothing is a thing would be Myr from Sacred Stones. It's just like, she's like, I'm not going to dress completely with as much skin exposed as I possibly can. I'm going to wear actual clothing. You're welcome. Thank you. There is one other, I just don't know their name, because I didn't play that game. Dark mages have very, very similar struggles as dragons. It's a thing. I don't know what it is, but they are just very prepared to be as unclothed as possible. It makes the dark magic stronger? I don't know. You got me. Something about it. I know, we have two Henrys in this, but I really like Henry. Even if he also really doesn't understand pants. Those are just tights, from what I can tell. They look like just tights. And like a sweater vest with bell sleeves. We you know what? And a cape with a huge standing collar. We try. There's something going on here. I want to say he's close to a normal wardrobe, but it's not true. It's closer, I guess. Here we are. That outfit on the right would never work. I just want to point that out there. Like, I don't think that's... Sorry. Aha! We are back to our dear Frederick. There is such a thing as too helpful. Now, this support conversation, if you've played this game, I'm sure you'll remember it, where Frederick made an extremely indecent poster of our dear Crom, and then distributed it among the people he was going to see all the time. Crom, understandably, was not thrilled about this situation, and this is the Frederick response, that he would rather risk his embarrassment than forsake his duty. But what Frederick needs to learn is that there is such a thing as too helpful. And it is important to remember this in real life too. That sometimes people may need help in your eyes, but do not want it. And helping them anyway is a little offensive. Now, I'm going to assume that no one's distributing risque posters of their friends, but you know, definitely don't do that without talking to them first. I mean, getting things like approval. Frederick, it's not gonna boost morale. He tries so hard. He needs to relax. It is a real word, Frederick. Try it. Ah yes, be worried if Dad says something important, or worse, needs to tell you later. Definitely start making funerary arrangements, because as soon as that happens, it's all downhill from there. He wants to walk and talk. When he never wants to walk and talk, be concerned. It's important, and that tells you something bad is about to happen. Worse, if he had something important to tell you about, but there's no time, and he has to wait. Impossible. That means he's never going to tell you, because he's never going to make it. You make him tell you right then and there. At the very least, you heard it. And then he'll probably still get caught up into something awful that happens, but he got to talk to you first. You know, silver lining. Ah, yes. Keep your children alive at any and all costs. This is just how it is. Doesn't even matter if this character has a strategic use. They're just your favorite. You just love them. You're gonna rewind just to save them. Even if you don't have it in classic mode. We've all been there. It's like, I know they'll be fine. They'll be back next turn or next chapter. I don't care. I want them back now. That's how it is. You just love your babies and you don't want them to get hurt, and you have to get revenge on the person who hurt them in a different timeline that you rewinded. It's how it is. Fire Emblem gets me. Aha, yes. And mistakes are actual chances to learn. There's a lot, I know this sounds really obvious, but you know what? There's a lot of people out there, and I've seen the research, I've seen the comments when I was digging around looking for other lessons that other people have learned. A lot of people mentioned this, that Fire Emblem really taught them that a mistake isn't something to be ashamed and upset about, but to acknowledge and to learn from. So I think it's important to mention it here, is that like, if you make a mistake in real life, it's something you can learn from. It's not something that like the embarrassment or shame is going to teach you anything. So instead of seeing it like that, you can take a look at your mistakes and go, this is a learning opportunity. I've got a lesson in this. I made a mistake and now I can improve myself as a person or as an employee or as a friend or whatever. You make a mistake, it's a chance to learn from that mistake and not make it again. Instead of just wallowing in shame, which some people might have you feel like you need to do with a mistake. That's what I'm taking from this, is that with so many people learning it from Fire Emblem, sadly, could be a real life issue where a lot of people don't acknowledge that a mistake is not necessarily something, well, by its nature, you did on purpose. So, you didn't realize something, you made a mistake, you realize what happened in hindsight, and you're better for next time. That's all you need to know. No need to beat yourself up. Ferdinand himself needs to learn this, just throwing this one out there. Aha! Another important thing. Stronger units will help weaker ones grow. This isn't just a Fire Emblem lesson, is that if you've got someone who's more experienced than you, instead of being like flustered or caught off guard by them, it's totally fine to just watch them work and see the projects they do and learn from their projects. If you surround yourself with people who don't challenge your skill level, you're never going to grow. So it pays to be around people who are as experienced or more experienced than you, or more talented than you, because you're going to learn from them and build on your own talents. We can't all be level 36 at the same time, and if you are surrounding yourself with people who are relying on you for help, then you aren't challenging yourself. So help people who don't have the same experiences as you, but also seek out people who are more experienced or as experienced as you. It's the only real way you're going to keep developing your skills that you're so proud of. You worked hard, keep working. There's nothing wrong with taking pride in that, or taking help from someone who's got more experience than you. because you're going to be more experienced than someone else and you're going to pass it along. That's what we need to remember, especially with people who are still learning their skills. And maybe a little unsteady confidence with that. It's really important to remember it's okay to learn from someone else. It doesn't say anything bad about you. You're just growing and learning. That's a good thing. Maintain your friendships and reap the rewards. This in Fire Emblem is stat boosts, and support conversations are their own reward in my argument, but mostly stat boosts, strategically speaking. But in real life, if you keep up on your friendships and you spend time with people, they're more willing to talk to you and help you when you're in need. It's the truth. You can find yourself a friend, like dear Ross here, you can rely on and trust completely. It takes work. It takes consistent work, and you gotta work on it all the time, because that's how friendships are. You can't just flake and come back and expect them to be exactly where you left them. They're not a book. They're a person. So, if you ignore them for 3 years, yeah, your friendship will probably erode a little bit. Maybe a lot of it. Depends on what you're doing, I guess. But maintain your friendships. Keep in touch. Make sure you're there for them just like they're there for you, and there'll be plenty of rewards for you. Just like there are plenty of rewards for them. Honestly, Fire Emblem makes friendships weirdly very simple to understand for, like, specifically people who are not neurotypical. If you have any problems understanding social interactions, having them split into tiers and understanding that, like, maintaining them literally has rewards tied to it can be such a simple way to wrap your mind around it. I mention it because it's helped a lot of people that I've talked to about it before. So, you know, this framework, very helpful. Here we are. We've got follow your own path. Never mind the fact that you can tell your students not to follow their own path in this picture with Fire Emblem Three Houses. That's not the point. The point is, you might actually decide something different as you're working on your path. Particularly if you are still going to school, but maybe if you're building a career too, or just working on a new skill. If it's not resonating with you the way it used to, it's important to examine it and know why. Why were you on this path to begin with? Was it because you were recommended to go on it by someone else? Or did you think you would enjoy it and now you aren't as much? Why? You have all kinds of things to learn, and you get to make your own choice. So, you know, there's no harm in evaluating where you are on your path and seeing if that's a path you want to take still. You are an evolving, growing, and changing human being, and there's no player character professor here to dash your dreams and tell you no. So, seize your path, find it, and go on it, and maybe you learn the same thing from your new path too. Maybe that one's not good for you either, but you keep searching. Following your own path doesn't mean you have to stay on that path once you realize you don't like it. It's okay. The students will still come back and change their paths too. They all want to update their goals because they too are evolving people. And so are you. Lesson learned. Ah yes, reality light. That is essentially what I've heard from so many Fire Emblem players, more in person than online, but probably because it's something so close to the heart, is that, like, when you're playing Fire Emblem, these goals are very attainable. If your life is in chaos and you feel like everything you set out to do is challenged and risky and maybe not going to work, or did fall through already, and you're just not sure what you want to do and you can't seem to get everything to come together the way you want it to, video games in general are so helpful, because it is just what it is. If you collect 3 apples and you give it to the old lady in the village, she will give you 30 gold, and that's that. She's not going to change the amount of apples you need. She's not going to try to shortchange you on the gold. It's just, you're going to do this and get this. But Fire Emblem in particular really lends itself to that, because the goals are nuanced and they're complex, and there are all these little secret life lessons dotted throughout that you can find and appreciate, and it's beautiful. But it doesn't have the same strings attached to it. So you can kind of prep your mind, warm yourself up to dealing with real life things by escaping into something where you know you're going to succeed. You just reinforce your confidence, and if you don't succeed, you can always try again. so that's important to mention. And when you do succeed, you get exactly what was promised. Nothing changes. You finish your task, and you get the reward for that task. It's a very controlled and stable environment at a time when everyone's life is in flux. You aren't necessarily guaranteed things, but in this game you are, and it feels very safe. So when reality gets tough, it's important that when you find an escape, it's an escape that's good and preps you to go back into the real world and be like, okay, I've got my boost, I have my confidence built back up because I did this thing and I got exactly what was promised for it, and everything is okay. I feel ready now to face the day and maybe not get what I want from it, but at least it's not going to hit me as hard because I built myself up again a little. It's reality light. And my favorite, and the last slide in this panel, you can in fact be too stubborn to die. And this is what we have learned from Henry and Sully. One of my favorite support conversations in this game, where she has asked him to hex her so she can see what it's like because she's a knight and she wants to be able to prepare for anything. Okay. He starts working his way up through his hexes and then tries a fatal one on her. Mind you, this is Henry with his social decorum being completely skewed. And isn't necessarily telling her these things, just suddenly drops a fatal hex on her. And then when she asks him what happened and asked him to start small, and was that small? He's like, oh no, it was fatal. And she's like, what? I told you to start small. And he's like, well, it wasn't going to be at first, but it turns out you've got buckets of willpower. And it's true. Anyone who knows Sully as a character is completely aware she's got willpower for days. If she doesn't want to do something, it's not happening. She can be too stubborn. So, in this case, too stubborn to die, where you can only hex her with a fatal hex and nothing else will even work. She didn't even know he was trying other hexes on her. She only noticed it when it became fatal. So, you know what? It's proof from Sully here, our dear sweet Sully, and our crazy Henry, that it can be the case. You might just be too stubborn to die. In any case, I hope you all have a fantastic PortCon. I am so excited to talk to all of you about this. And if there's anything that you have questions on or headcanons on, I am always excited to chat. You can find me, my username is Blute, basically everywhere. I'm on a Fire Emblem Three Houses kick right now, and I'm sure you've noticed that. If you're on my Archive of Our Own, I am on a huge Fire Emblem Three Houses kick right now, and I will be probably for a while. But I'm always happy to talk about any of my Fire Emblem kiddos. I adore them so much.